Chapter 2, The Pool of Tears. Stranger and stranger, exclaimed Alice. She was so astonished that for a moment she forgot how to speak properly. Now I'm stretching out like the biggest telescope that ever was. Goodbye, feet. When she looked down at her feet, they were almost out of sight, they were getting so far away. Oh, my poor little feet. Who will put on your shoes and socks now, dears? I'm sure I can't. I'm too far away to take care of you. You must manage the best way you can. But I must be kind to them, thought Alice. Otherwise, they might not walk the way I want to go. Let me see, I'll give them a new pair of boots every Christmas. And she went on planning how to manage it. I must send them a parcel, she thought. But how funny it'll seem, sending presents to one's own feet. And what an odd address it would be. Near the fireplace, on the carpet, Alice's right foot, esq hearty greetings from Alice. Oh dear, what nonsense I'm talking. Just at this moment, her head struck against the roof of the hall. In fact, she was now more than 9 feet high, and she quickly took the little golden key and hurried off to the garden door. Poor Alice! She could now only lie down on one side, peering into the garden with one eye, making it impossible for her to get through. And so, she sat down and began to cry again. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? Alice said to herself. Crying like that, a big girl like you, and it's very fitting to say so now, you are indeed quite large, just sitting here and crying. Stop it at once, I command you. But she continued to cry, her tears flowing like fountains, eventually forming a pool around her about 4 feet deep and reaching halfway across the hall. After a while, she heard the sound of light, quick footsteps in the distance and quickly wiped away her tears to see who was coming. It was the White Rabbit, returning in a hurry, splendidly dressed, holding a pair of white kid gloves in one hand and a large fan in the other. As he ran, he muttered to himself, Oh, the Duchess, the Duchess. Oh my! If I keep her waiting, she'll be furious. Alice, feeling utterly desperate for help, timidly called out as the rabbit approached, Excuse me, sir. This startled the rabbit, causing him to drop the gloves and fan in a panic and scurry into the darkness. Alice picked up the fan and gloves. The hall was very stuffy, so she fanned herself while talking to herself, Oh dear, what a day of oddities. Everything was so normal yesterday. Could it be that I changed overnight? Let me think, was everything normal when I woke up this morning? I remember feeling a bit off. But if I'm not myself, then who could I be? Oh, what a mystery. So she began to think about all the children her age, to see if she had turned into one of them. I'm sure I'm not Ada, said Alice, because her hair goes in such long ringlets, and mine doesn't go in ringlets at all. And I can't be Mabel, for I know all sorts of things, and she knows such a very little. Besides, she is she, and I am I, and, oh dear, how puzzling it all is. I'll try if I can remember things I used to know. Let me see, 4 times 5 is 12, and 4 times 6 is 13, and 4 times 7 is, oh dear, I shall never get to 20 at that rate. Anyway, the multiplication table doesn't signify. Let's try geography. London is the capital of Paris, and Paris is the capital of Rome, and Rome, no, that's all wrong, I'm certain. I must have been changed for Mabel. I'll try and say how doth the little, and she crossed her hands on her lap as if she were saying lessons, and began to repeat it, but her voice sounded hoarse and strange, and the words did not come the same as they used to do. How doth the little crocodile improve his shining tail, and pour the waters of the Nile on every golden scale? How cheerfully he seems to grin, how neatly spread his claws, and welcome little fishes in, with gently smiling jaws. I must have recited it wrong, said poor Alice, tears welling up in her eyes. I must really have turned into Mabel, and now I'll have to live in a tiny, dingy house, with no toys and so much studying to do. No, I won't do it. If I'm Mabel, I'll stay right here. It's no use calling me up, dear. They'll have to tell me who I am first, and if I like being that person, I'll come up. If not, I'll stay down here until I change into someone else. But then she cried out, "Oh, how I wish they would call me up. I'm so lonely down here by myself." As she spoke, she looked down at her hands and was surprised to find she was wearing the White Rabbit's little white kid gloves. How can this be, she thought. I must have shrunk again. She got up and went over to the table to measure herself, and found she was now about 2 feet high and still shrinking rapidly. She quickly realized it was the fan she was holding that was causing her to shrink, so she dropped it just in time. That was a close call, said Alice. She was quite frightened by the sudden change, but luckily, she didn't disappear altogether. Now, to the garden, she said, and ran to the small door. Oh no. The door was locked again, and the little golden key was still on the glass table. Things are worse now, thought the poor little girl. I've never been so small before, never. This is too bad, just too bad. As she was speaking, she suddenly slipped and went splash into the water, which had reached her chin. Her first thought was that she had somehow fallen into the sea. Then I can go home by train, she said to herself. Alice had once been to the seaside, where you could see many changing rooms, children playing in the sand with wooden spades, and a row of lodging houses, with a train station behind them. But soon she realized that she was in the pool of tears she had cried when she was 9 feet tall. I really wish I hadn't cried so much, Alice said while swimming around, looking for a way out. Now I'm getting what I deserve. I bet I'll drown in my own tears. This would be a curious thing, for sure. What a day of oddities this has been. Just then, she heard the sound of splashing nearby and swam towards it to see what it was. At first, she thought it must be a walrus or a hippopotamus, but then she remembered how small she was and realized it was just a mouse that had also slipped into the water like herself. What good is it now? Alice wondered. Should I speak to the mouse? Given how peculiar things are down here, I suppose it might talk. It's worth a try. So she said, Hey, mouse. Do you know the way out of this pond? I'm so tired of swimming. Hey, mouse. Alice thought this was the right way to talk to a mouse, though she had never done it before, but she remembered seeing it in her brother's Latin grammar book, a mouse of a mouse to a mouse o' mouse. The mouse looked at her suspiciously and seemed to wink at her with one of its small eyes, but it didn't speak. Perhaps it doesn't understand English, Alice thought. I dare say it's a French mouse, brought over with William the Conqueror. Alice knew some history, though she wasn't very clear on how long ago it happened or what exactly happened. So, she tried speaking in French, asking, Where is my cat, which was the first sentence in her French textbook. The mouse suddenly leapt out of the water, trembling all over. Oh, please forgive me. Alice cried out quickly, afraid she had hurt the poor little creature's feelings. I completely forgot you don't like cats. Not like cats, the mouse exclaimed sharply. Would you like cats if you were me? Well, maybe not, Alice consoled. Don't be angry with me. But I do wish you could see my cat, Dinah. If you could see her, you'd like cats. She's such a dear, quiet thing. Alice kept swimming slowly, mostly talking to herself. She purrs so nicely by the fire, licks her paws, and washes her face, and she's so soft to touch, and she's such a good mouser, oh, please forgive me. Alice hastily added again, as this time the mouse was truly terrified. She was certain she had offended it now. If you don't like it, we won't talk about her anymore. Talking about us, are you? Shouted the mouse, its tail quivering. As if I want to talk. My family hates cats, that vile, base, vulgar species. Don't let me hear the name again. I won't mention them again, I promise, said Alice quickly, changing the subject. Do you, like dogs? The mouse did not respond, so Alice eagerly continued, "You see, there's a little dog near our house, a bright-eyed spaniel, you know. Oh, it has such long, curly brown fur. It catches things you throw and sits up for treats, playing all sorts of tricks, though I've forgotten most of them. It belongs to a farmer, you know, and he says it's so useful, worth £100. He says it can kill all the rats, oh dear." Alice said regretfully, "I'm afraid I've upset you again." The mouse swam away from her hastily, stirring the water as it went. Alice called softly after the mouse, "Mouse, dear, please come back. We won't talk about cats or dogs anymore." Hearing this, the mouse turned around and swam slowly back to her, looking pale. Alice thought it must be with anger, and said in a low, trembling voice, "Let's go to the shore, and I'll tell you my history, and you'll understand why I hate cats and dogs, too." It was time to leave, as the pool was getting crowded with all the birds and animals that had fallen in, a duck, a dodo, a lory, a young eagle, and several other strange creatures. Alice led the way, swimming with the group of birds and animals towards the shore. Dear parents and children, this chapter's broadcast has concluded. In order to create a widely understandable fairy tale, our team has optimized the original text as much as possible to ensure that young listeners can comprehend the story. If you are interested in the upcoming episodes, please subscribe immediately and click the small bell icon to receive all notifications, allowing you to stay informed about our latest updates. Finally, we wish you and your children a happy life, and we look forward to the next episode.